Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. Please sit back, relax, and join Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick for an hour of entertaining information about HOAs and HOA law.
Good morning, everyone. I believe if I look up at the arms on the clock, it's 9:08 on Saturday morning. The hands of the clock, and here we are in this beautiful box that we call the studios of 1380. Frank Jolly in the back has corrected me, 9:06 Pacific Standard Time, and we are here without Viana Barbu. She went camping. Yep. She was leaving the office yesterday. She had this big bag of marshmallows and some Hershey chocolate bars and graham crackers, and she's like, "Yeah, guys, I'm not going to do the radio tomorrow. I'm going to go camping."
Oh, wow. Well, we're the Saturday HOA Brunch, and we're all about community associations. We're a law firm, Angius&Terry. We represent associations, sell condos, right, townhomes, planned unit developments, PUDs, whatever you want to call them.
Master plan, community development. Yeah, anything above and beyond just living on a ranch by yourself.
Right, it's community.
It's all about community.
What did we talk about before?
Well, everything. We just are like an encyclopedia of homeowners associations. So we've talked about banking. We've talked about reserve studies.
Finding people says,
just
yeah,
recently,
right.
last week, we talked about contracts with Morgan Fussell.
Oh, what a great guest. Morgan Fussell, broadband, right?
He came in, he says, you know what? If you need me to negotiate your cable contract and service providers, then I'm your guy. There's no competition. We've talked a little bit about insurance. We always talk about the great organizations involved in this industry.
Rick Russo,
he's a great sponsor. Reserve Studies.
Bob Browning.
Mr. Bob Browning. Saw him this week. The guy's always got a smile on his face.
Oh, yeah, happy guy.
Yep. And then we've also talked about new bills, lobbying in the industry.
Skip Dom?
Yeah, Skip Dom, the lobbyist. He came on.
So Skip Dom, he's the lobbyist for Community Association Institute.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's like 1,200 bills this year that are supposed to pass through the legislature, and our organizations are trying to figure out, well, which ones do we support and which ones don't we support?
Yeah, okay, Frank.
So Frank wants us to say Skip Dom 5 times fast, but we don't have time for that. So
right, we're serious because we're talking about election rules today. This is
part Dukes. Oh, part 2.
Right. And so today we're going to be playing Battle of the Board Members. Hopefully that's going to work out today. Yeah, so we missed it last week. So we have one of them that's going to be back, and that's Jay.
Yeah.
So Jay's listening in, and also Richard, board member extraordinaire, and both of them, they're going to be playing Battle of the Board Members. Looking forward to that at the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah, if the telephone tower works. We've had some technical difficulties as of late.
Right.
But I think it's going to work out.
And we'll get Lyle back on, and he was
Lyle was supposed to be a guest. He did send me a threatening letter. He was a little bit upset that he didn't get to come on. So we'll make it up to you,
Friend of the show.
Yeah, he is.
We want to hear from callers, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, if you want to call in, if you're driving around and you're like, oh, I've got a question about my HOA, or I'm going to move into an HOA, where can I get more information, or anything related to community associations, just give us a call, 888-923-1380, 888-923-1380, and our wonderful engineer, Mr. Frank Jolly, will answer the phone, and he will get you on the air.
And then Twitter and Facebook, right?
Yeah, Twitter. And you know what's funny on Twitter? I think we just
mentioned that to me.
The tweet they tweeted, somebody like the Sacramento Ballet or something tweeted we were the show of the summer.
They said we're like Mom's apple pie.
Better than Mom's apple pie.
That makes me laugh.
We didn't even have to pay for that. Usually you go on Facebook and you advertise or post your ad about your page, and you can get some likes and stuff, but then, boom, it just showed up yesterday. Viana and I kind of were celebrating in the back of the office because the Sacramento Ballet recognized the HOA Brunch.
Well, that's pretty cool. All right, so our legal discussion today is going
we got to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be heavy. This is a heavy subject, and our contestants for Battle of Board Members, so we made some questions, and some of them are a little tricky. Some of them are right over the plate.
Well, it's about elections, right?
Elections. This is association. So when this law was first enacted in the Davis-Sterling Act, that is that group of laws that's about nothing but community associations. Back in 2006.
That's like the cookbook of community association statutes, right?
You can say that, one way of putting it. So in 2006, the Davis-Sterling Act was amended, and it provided for different laws, and it required associations. So this 2006, right? So that's 10 years ago now. It feels like it was just yesterday. In that all associations, they must adopt election rules. It was a requirement. You must adopt election rules. That's what the law provided.
Okay.
And so what does that mean? It meant that they...
And we're talking about community association elections. I know everybody's getting hot and heavy right now. We've got all these candidates.
The season's starting.
The Donald, he's come out. We're not talking about, what Trump's campaign's going to look like, or his election, or Dan Bilzerian, or Rand Paul, or who are a couple of the other, Hillary, or what? All these people are just coming out of the woodwork saying they're going to change America.
But not for boards, right?
Not for community associations.
When we say elections, though, Jonathan, we're not just talking about election of directors. We're also talking about removal. Elections is a broader term. It means when you elect directors into office, where you remove them. For instance, also special assessments or regular assessments.
No, that's a nasty word.
Right, above 20%. Amendments to CCNRs and bylaws, we're going to get into that. Grants of exclusive use common area. So this is a Davis
And
Sterling
this
Act.
is not loans or contracts, or it doesn't include capital improvements, nothing of that sort.
Right. That's separate. Good
Okay.
point. Capital
All right.
improvements, loans, contracts. It's still, they're an election. However, they don't have to be pursuant to the secret ballot, secret written ballots sent out to the owners.
Yeah. So since July 1st of 2006, so associations, this is what happened. They've got to adopt their own election rules that integrate language from the relevant statutes and their own declarations, right, is another word for the acronym CC&Rs.
Right.
Or
And
bylaws.
If you follow along, and I know that a lot of our listeners do read the Davis Sterling Act.
A lot of people
the
tune
law
in and go,
itself,
what is this gibberish?
And it's been renumbered as of 2 years ago. So we're looking at Civil Code Section 5100 and et sec. That means the ones following that, and that's with respect to elections. So you need to do a secret written ballot sent to the owners.
Secret written. What is that?
And that is where you have a double envelope system. Okay. You have a ballot, and it's a secret ballot. That means you have a secret ballot. You don't put your name on it. You put it in another envelope, a blank envelope. That blank envelope goes into an outer envelope, and on the outer envelope, you have to indicate your address and lot number. You have to actually sign it on the outside.
Right.
And you send that into the association, or you could bring it to the association, so it's delivered. So the association delivers it. This is for most elections, right? And so those were the 5 that we talked about. And the popular one is election directors, because it's director election season starting now. So it's very
important. Who's going to run the nonprofit corporation?
Also, we do get a lot of CC&R and bylaw revisions now. It is the season for that. And for the last couple of years,
it's the season to update your community's governing documents.
I think everyone was waiting for the recession to kind of subside a little bit. The Great Recession.
Has it?
Before, I like to think so.
When's it come on the upside?
And so for associations, their CC&Rs and bylaws, they were getting kind of old, a lot of them, right? In the Sacramento area.
Yeah, it's always tough when they show up with
area.
a forklift and they have a chisel and the concrete. So, whoa, hear that? That's the background music. That means Frank Jolly says, hey, guys, I'm going to have to silence you for a bit.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about nomination procedures, candidate qualifications, our contestants.
Yeah, we're going to hopefully get some phone calls, and we're going to just keep plugging along. I am actually anxious to stay here as long as I can today. It's going to be 106 degrees out. So stay cool. It's
kind of balmy outside.
We'll be back for the second quarter.
Traffic reports on AM 1380 The Answer are powered by NRIX, the leading global supplier of traffic data. When you are not able to listen to us, download the free NRIX traffic app from the iOS or Android store.
This is your RAM Auto Update with Newton Carruthers.
Just imagine spending a day with the stars of the Champions Tour. The Roseville Auto Mall presents the 2015 U.S. Senior Open Giveaway. Test drive any car at any of our 17 dealers and you'll receive a pair of tickets to see the pros battle it out. You love golf? You love cars and saving cash? Well, then this is what you've been waiting for. Professionally speaking, that's a real birdie. The Roseville Auto Mall, driven to be the best.
We ask questions everywhere in life, except at the doctor's office.
Any questions?
No.
Ask questions. For the 10 questions everyone should know, go to ahrq.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If your community association has a good relationship with their current management company, you can stop listening. However, if you are struggling with your current service provider, we'd love to talk with you to see if Omni Community Management would be a good fit. Transparency, education, communication, and trust are just 4 of the qualities that set Omni apart. This is Rolf Crocker, CEO of Omni. Call us at 916-965-8964. That's 916-965-8964. Online at omni-mgt.com. That's omni-mgt.com. Omni Community Management, your friend in the community association management industry for over 20 years.
Have you ever heard of the saying, a person's home is their castle? Of course you have. But sometimes a construction defect can turn your castle into a catastrophe. If this happens to you, you need proper and professional representation. You need Angius&Terry, LLP. For over 30 years, the attorneys at Angius&Terry have been effectively serving homeowners and community associations, recovering more than $500 million on behalf of their clients. Angius&Terry strives to ensure that your construction defect claims are prosecuted in an aggressive and cost-effective manner. Angius&Terry will also continue to work with homeowners and community associations after the construction defect claims are concluded to make sure that the money received from builders is spent wisely and that your interests are protected during the repair process. Don't let a construction defect turn your castle into a catastrophe. Call Angius&Terry LLP today at 916-567-1400. That's 916-567-1400. Online at angius-terry.com. Angius&Terry LLP.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
News, opinion, insight. AM 1380, The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
I hear this great music, and I wish I was out at like the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk walking down to the beach with a surfboard.
Hey, that'd be fun.
But we're having more fun because we're talking about community associations, right?
What? Well, what's happening next week on our show?
I don't know. Have we decided yet? We have that big wheel in the office that we spin. We go in, everybody gets their frappuccinos in the morning on Monday, and then we go, okay, here it is, the wild wheel of all the great things we can talk about regarding community associations, and we spin it. So
I'm talking about our contest.
Oh, our contest next week.
Our raffle.
We're going to give away a lot of fun prizes for free next week to employees of community association management companies. Boardwalk tickets, Six Flag tickets, Raging Waters tickets. And they're going to call in.
That's going to be different. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to call it our ATC Assessment Collection Summer of Fun giveaway, presented by the Saturday HOA Brunch. Isn't that cool?
The Saturday HOA Brunch. Okay, so back to the law. Election, we're talking about election.
Yeah, election rules.
Election rules.
So we've got our list of things, right? Nomination procedures, candidate qualifications, method for selecting independent third parties as inspectors of elections, right, to make sure there's no foul play during these elections. Rules regarding access to association media during campaigns. Mm-hmm. Rules regarding access to the common area during campaigns. So if you want to have a campaign party or something in the community center to run for treasurer of the board of directors, you can do that. Rules regarding secret ballot procedures, and also the ballot itself.
Right. So the rules, election rules, they are rules per the Davis-Sterling Act, and the Davis-Sterling Act has a provision. This is one of our shows.
This is one of Frank's favorite provisions in the Davis-Sterling Act.
And what it states is that association boards can go ahead and adopt rules, and how they do it is that they have to send the rule out 30 days before a board meeting where they're going to go ahead and adopt the rule.
Tail wags the dog.
Election rules are they're specified by word. Procedures for elections, that must be a rule that the board will adopt at a board meeting after giving the other owners notice of it. And what will happen is at that board meeting, it will be an open board meeting, that's where the board of directors
and anybody
will adopt
can
the
attend.
Rule. Anyone in the
community,
in the association,
right, any member can attend an open board meeting. So I challenge all of the people that live in homeowners associations and just complain about them to just show up at the next meeting so that maybe you can get involved instead of just whine about it.
Well, to become a board member, maybe you need to be nominated, right? And
Sure.
so the Davis-Sterling Act, it provides for the fact that members, they can go ahead and they can nominate themselves.
Isn't that cool?
They can nominate themselves, and the nominations do not have to be written. So, kind of interesting. It's how that would work actually, because all nominations are right. But I suppose someone could raise their hand at a meeting. It's interesting though with the secret written ballot process, where it really changed how elections are run, because this usually, when is a director election, Jonathan? What kind of a meeting would that be typically? Typically where you would have the actual opening of the ballots. What kind of a meeting would that be?
The opening of the ballots would probably be an annual
meeting. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it used to be where people could be nominated from the floor, right? But it doesn't make so much sense if 30 days before that election, when they open up the ballots, they had sent out the ballots to everyone. So homeowners will send in ballots. It's kind of like in our national election where you could send in the ballots without actually going to the poll itself.
You're an absentee member voting?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay, so once a candidate is nominated, what happens next? Well, you have to make sure that they're qualified. Right?
Yeah, and there's probably some rules or qualifications that are in the governing documents that say, well, you can run because you pay your assessments. You can't run because you owe the association 6 months of assessments. So there's qualifications. You have to be a good standing member in the community. You can't be just a tyrant and just assume that you're going to run for the board of directors.
Well, maybe you can. In order to determine whether a nominee, a candidate, is actually qualified, you have to look at the bylaws. And as a result of a recent court case, Friars Village Homeowners Association, in that case, that allowed for
that's a popular case, right?
It was a pretty popular case because it's about the fact that a board of directors was able to make a rule that limited or actually excluded from being a candidate someone who was a spouse or a cohabitant with another candidate or board member. And it wasn't done in the bylaws.
I know, but what's the big deal about this is the thing is if you're going to have a board meeting, you got to have a quorum, right? Well, what if you have a 3-person board, you have a husband and a wife on a board, and they can't talk about association business, right? They're not supposed to with each other unless they're with the rest of the board of directors.
I think what you're trying to say that a board members cannot discuss business other than at a board meeting.
Right.
And a board meeting is defined as a quorum of the board members. Okay? So you're saying, let's say you have a 3-member board and you have a husband and wife, and they are in this association, for instance, doesn't have a disallowing of cohabitants or spouses to be on the board together, right? It's whatever you choose. That is where the board of directors puts in the rules, or if it's in bylaws. So it used to be you just look at the bylaws and you could see who is qualified.
I've got something for you. We got a caller, Claudia from San Jose. Claudia, can you hear us? Hey, Frank. Frank's
okay,
so
what
we're going to do?
Claudia on the line.
We've got Claudia on the line. We've got Jay. Jay's just called in on the line, and then I also expect Richard to give us a call. So as soon as our glorious secretary Frank Jolly gets everybody lined up and into our computer system here, we've got Claudia. She's calling in from San Jose, so she must be listening on the iHeart radio station or via the internet. Claudia,
I see Jay has called. Oh, there! Hey! There she is.
Can you hear us, Claudia?
I can barely hear you.
Okay, how's the weather out there in San Jose in the beautiful Silicon Valley region?
Yes, I'm in San Jose.
Okay, what's your question?
I want to win some prizes.
Oh, you really? Is that what you're calling all the way from San Jose for a prize?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get a prize for her.
I'm supposed to call between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., but I'm calling right now.
Where do you work in the community association industry, Claudia?
Oh, I don't know the name of the association.
Oh,
but I get these tickets to call behalf of my job because I work for NA Shade and Associates.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, so you know what? You probably got that from our good friend and colleague Trish Black from ATC Assessment Collections.
Well, fantastic.
But you know what, Claudia? That's next week. That's the.
I can hear what you're saying.
All right,
that's the 27th, Claudia. Next week.
That's next week. Call in next week, Claudia. Hey, Jay, are you on the line?
Hello.
Oh, Claudia, you're still there. I just wanted to let you know, if you look at that ticket, we're giving away prizes on June 27th. That's next week. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right. That's next week. So I'm going to get on with our law.
We really appreciate you calling and listening, though, Claudia.
Claudia, we'll talk to you next week. I want to mention inspectors of election. Inspectors of election, this is the entity or the person who is in charge of the election for associations, and they are selected by the board of directors. The board of directors goes ahead and selects the inspector of elections, and they make a determination of whether candidates are qualified, the invalidity or validity of ballots. Right, Jonathan?
Absolutely.
Let me go back to now. We're talking about candidates.
A little bit.
Okay. So you look at the bylaws, you look at the election rules to see whether or not a person is qualified to be on the board. And so some typical ones are, you got to be a member of the association. Believe it or not, there are a lot of governing documents out there. That'd be the bylaws.
Okay.
And maybe the election rules. Sometimes, though, when associations have this type of provision in bylaws, they don't have election rules. And that is, the provision is, it doesn't say exactly who could be on the board. If your bylaws don't limit board member candidates, board members to members in the association,
yeah,
anyone could be elected. Isn't that crazy? A tenant?
Frank Jolly, our production engineer, he could be elected for a board of directors in a homeowners association. He's shaking his head. I think, though, we've got one of our contestants on the line for Battle of the Board Members. We've got Jay. Jay, how are you doing? Jay.
Hey, Jay, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe turn your radio down, Jay. Okay, so we're going to try and get Jay on the line.
We'll work on that during our next.
I'm on the line now.
There he is! Okay, everyone, Jay was supposed to be on the show last week, but there's a technical difficulty. And so, Jay, how are you doing today?
Doing just fine, thank you.
Oh, Jay, you sound great. I want to thank you for getting on the show. I appreciate it. A lot of hard work to get you on the show. And so we're going to be playing Battle of the Board Members. You just hang on. We're going to go through the law.
Well, what about Jay, though? He's got to probably he's been elected.
Sure.
He's a board member. Jay, what has your experience been?
He's not on the board now. He was on a board.
He
did his tour of duty.
He did his tour of duty. What was your experience like during the whole campaign and election process when you wanted to get on your board of directors, Jay?
It was very simple. There were 3 positions available, and only 3 of us applied.
Oh, wow.
Uncontested election.
And so we didn't have to do a lot of campaigning, and we were all established members, so it was a very easy campaign. We didn't have any burning issues because overall the board in the past years have been doing an excellent job.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Great association, very good association with a lot of really good board members.
All right, well, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more probably with Jay. We will get Richard hopefully on the line. We're going to jump right back into election rules. I'm feeling a little bit discouraged. I didn't have free prizes for Claudia in San Jose. But next week, Claudia, I promise.
I wanted to give her a prize anyway.
Having trouble understanding your community association's reserve study? Does your HOA's reserve study seem to be written in a strange language? Hi, I'm Robert Browning, owner of the Browning Reserve Group. At the Browning Reserve Group, we have been providing easy-to-understand reserve studies since 1999. We actually listen to our communities and help them plan for the future. Find us online at browningrg.com. That's browningrg.com, or toll free at 877-708-0600. That's 877-708-0600. Clarity from complexity. The Browning Reserve Group.
Have you ever heard of the saying, a person's home is their castle? Of course you have. But sometimes a construction defect can turn your castle into a catastrophe. If this happens to you, you need proper and professional representation. You need Angius&Terry, LLP. For over 30 years, the attorneys at Angius&Terry have been effectively serving homeowners and community associations, recovering more than $500 million on behalf of their clients. Angius&Terry strives to ensure that your construction defect claims are prosecuted in an aggressive and cost-effective manner. Angius&Terry will also continue to work with homeowners and community associations after the construction defect claims are concluded to make sure that the money received from builders is spent wisely and that your interests are protected during the repair process. Don't let a construction defect turn your castle into a catastrophe. Call Angius&Terry LLP today at 916-567-1400. That's 916-567-1400. Online at angius-terry.com. Angius&Terry LLP.
Did you see the story about the Homeowners Association? I wonder what their residents think.
I don't know, but I love my condominium association. The place looks great and is well managed, and our property values are increasing.
Well, that's a good thing.
Community Associations Institute, CAI, has helped us build a great community. They have tools for safeguarding our investment, including education for our board and professional training for our manager. Just visit CAI at responsiblecommunities.com.
Okay, responsiblecommunities.com.
AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry LLP. And now your hosts Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Grinding it out, the fastest hour of our life, the most exciting hour of our listeners' life, right? The Saturday HOA Brunch.
Check in with Jay.
Yeah, hey Jay.
Yes.
So what do you have? What are your plans when you're done? Playing on Battle of the Board Members today. What excitement do you have going on this weekend? Board meetings or just leisure?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to go out in the hot weather and work in the yard.
Oh, is that a honey-do list?
Yes, it is.
That's
all
commendable.
Right.
That's commendable.
Well, remember that. So, what are you working on? Some Xeriscape or something?
Well, I've got some bushes that aren't doing too well because of lack of water, so I'm going to give them some extra loving care.
All right, a little bit of TLC.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, so you guys, we're going to go back to the law about election rules. We're waiting for Richard to call in. Hopefully something didn't happen where he can't call in.
Yeah.
If Richard does not call in, we're going to have Jay play.
Oh, maybe Claudia could call in and play against...
That's true. Or she's going to play against you, Jonathan.
Yeah, she could play against Jay if Richard doesn't call in, and then, you know what, you'll get a prize, Claudia.
I was at a board meeting the other day, and a board member said something that it was really a smart thing to say. They said, we're dealing with this really tough subject. We're in a 2-hour meeting. We're talking about this big, tough issue. And a board member said, look, everyone, this is going to be a bumpy ride when we deal with this issue because...
It's like turbulence.
Life is messy. It is. No matter how hard we try to go ahead and categorize things and make sure everything's neatly in their place.
I know it is. I spilt Starbucks on my shirt on the way down here.
All right. So you look at the bylaws, you look at the election rules to see the qualifications of directors. And so... the inspector of elections, that's the person that's, interestingly enough, can be appointed by the members. So it can be appointed by the members or it can be appointed by the board. This is a person that's going to receive the ballots, it's going to hold the ballots, it's going to bring the ballots to an open board meeting.
Count them.
Or a member meeting, and it's going to count them in public. That is, at the meeting in front of everyone, so everyone can make sure that they're being counted properly. Now, who could be an inspector of elections? It cannot be a board member, Jay. It cannot be a candidate. He knows that. It can't be a board member or a candidate or someone related to them. What about
a committee in the community?
Yes.
Could they do that?
What about the management company, Jonathan?
The management
company? Or the
company?
attorney for the association, or the CPA for the association? It can only be if it's allowed for in election rules.
Right.
That's the one discretionary provision that you really want to think about, whether or not you want to allow your management company to be the inspector of elections, because that's typically the least expensive way to go.
But there's companies out there that will actually do this for you, correct? You've dealt with a couple of them before?
I have, absolutely. There's some companies out there that are statewide, and they go ahead and they provide services in particular to count the ballots, gather the ballots at meetings.
Now,
so when do you appoint the inspector of elections? Typically before you mail out the ballots. Again, the ballots have to be sent out 30 days before the meeting, where the directors are going to go ahead and count them. Where the inspector of elections is going to count them. Freudian slip there.
All right. Now, I guess my question is then, how long is this process, right? From when you're going to determine who's going to be the inspector of elections, who's going to run for the board of directors, when we're going to count the vote. What's the time frame that you generally see for an election process?
It's a couple of months.
It's a quick hitter.
Yeah.
There's no caucuses where they have all of these candidates are meeting in different areas in the common area, gaining votes from certain buildings or anything like this.
Let's talk about the common area. Let's talk about association media in the common area. So you had that question earlier, right, Jonathan? You noted that there is a recent court case. We talked about that court case, the Wittenberg case, the Wittenberg versus Beach Walk Homeowners Association. You put those words in your computer, online, Google, and you're going to come up with this case. And it provides that you must have equal access. It must be a level playing field.
For everyone. Well, what if I wanted to say, if I was like, well, I've got to really spice up my campaign to run for the board of directors in this community, and I wanted to have my own Facebook page or my own Twitter page, and I wanted to post in the common area, vote for Johnny Bravo, 2016 board of directors, ABC HOA, right?
That's what you're calling yourself these days, Johnny Bravo? I like that. But it's a good question. And that is what you're saying is, if the association allows one member to post,
they got to allow everyone that's running.
They got to allow everyone.
I understand that, but the extent of the campaign and how much you want to influence the membership to vote for you, what are the limitations on that? It just obviously can't be association funding, right?
Yeah. Well, here, I like this. This is, Viana always helps us prepare for our shows each week.
Yeah,
and the way she puts it, she says, if one member shouts his disapproval about an election in the common area, must other members also be allowed to shout their opinions. I like how she put that.
Shout?
And technically speaking, yes. Although there are rules about creating a nuisance. So this... do you know what a town crier is, Jonathan?
Frank Jolly. He goes down to Midtown and he just walks around the street and pouts.
Okay, so that's the person.
Give us a definition of a town crier.
I can only give you an example.
You're ringing a bell. You're waving a hand.
It's a person in the town square
you make me feel like I'm looking
that
at
says,
the Salvation Army
we have
guy.
some news coming. Right.
Okay, so we've got 1 minute. 1 minute before break, and we're going to go... We're gonna hopefully get Richard on the line. We've got Jay waiting. We also have a backup Claudia in San Jose just in case.
All right, let me cover a couple of points because you will be questioned about these, right?
Yeah.
Candidates may campaign for themselves at their own expense. So if you have an incumbent board member, the incumbent board member can go ahead and campaign for himself, for sure.
And how much money can he spend? As much as he wants to campaign for himself.
As much as he wants. I do know a few associations, very large associations, that have limitations on spending.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, those mysterious secret ballots, well, it needs to be, again, the double envelope system, mailed to all the owners, and it's for special assessments over 5%, election removal of directors, amendment to the governing documents. How do they vote? It's the 2 envelopes.
You can't be a convicted felon, right, and run for
Who makes the decision whether a ballot is invalid, Jonathan?
The inspector of elections.
You were listening.
That was a question. It
was rhetorical. You gave the right answer. Once a secret ballot is received, it is irrevocable. That's I had to deal with that one a lot of times at meetings. Not a lot of times, a few times at meetings, where a homeowner would say, "I want to change my ballot." Can't change your ballot.
Not even with whiteout, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to go to break. Is there a couple other little things
Just
that you
one
need to come through? One more.
If you want to challenge, if you want to go ahead and challenge an election, how much time?
30 days, 6 months. Give it to us. What's the time?
1 year.
1 year. You can challenge it for 1 year. Okay.
1 year.
When we get back from the break, time for the fourth quarter. We'll probably get some hot coffee in us, so we'll be a little more enthusiastic. But we'll have Jay on the line. And
Jay, hang on the line.
Numbers.
That's right.
This is Michael Medved for townhall.com. For 2 reasons, Republicans must select a female nominee for vice president. First, because a woman can play the attack dog role against Hillary without backlash about sexism. And second, because the GOP must win a decisive majority of white females for any chance of victory. But which female leaders to consider? Kelly Ayotte is youthful and charismatic, but is busy this year defending her crucial Senate seat in New Hampshire. Governor Nikki Haley is also dynamic, but deeply controversial at home in South Carolina. Carly Fiorina has gathered some momentum running for president, but her mixed record as a corporate CEO offers Democrats a juicy target. Susana Martinez, popular governor of New Mexico, has strong blue-collar appeal, but if the presidential nominee is also Hispanic, Rubio, or Cruz, her nomination becomes problematic. This leaves one obvious, overwhelmingly favorable choice: former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. I'm Michael Medved.
Hi, this is Rick Russo, owner of Russo Insurance Agency and Financial Services. We proudly serve Granite Bay, Roseville, Rockland, Sacramento, Lake Tahoe, and the surrounding areas. At Russo Insurance Agency, we like to say, get to know us before you need us. Our insurance agency is built on relationships and trust. If you want to be certain that your most valuable assets are insured correctly, allow us to give you more than just a 15-minute quote. For all your commercial, home, auto, and life insurance needs, call us today at 916-791-1901. That's 916-791-1901. Or online at rickrussoinsurance.com. That's rickrussoinsurance.com. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
The challenges presented by today's economy and rebounding housing market is forcing many homeowners association boards of directors to operate their HOAs more like a business. It's a balancing act of trying to stay solvent and still provide homeowners with quality amenities and services. One of the main challenges HOA boards are facing is attempting to recover unpaid HOA fees owed by delinquent homeowners. Collection efforts are often very time-consuming. If you want to get the HOA fees collection monkey off of your back, call ATC Assessment Collection Group. ATC is an attorney-supervised collection company, providing collection and foreclosure services to HOAs in both California and Nevada's most recognizable communities. Get back to what you actually volunteered to do as an HOA board member. Effectively oversee your community. Call ATC today at 916-641-1410. That's 916-641-1410. Online at atcacg.com. That's atcacg.com. ATC Assessment Collection Group.
News, opinion, insight. AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Fourth quarter of the show, and we are going to play. What's your favorite part of the show?
Battle of the board members.
Battle of the board member today.
Singular.
Yeah, it's singular. We're just going to try to pick the brain of Jay. Jay, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Jay.
Just one caveat. The audio coming over the phone is very distorted, so I fight to understand what you say, so I may have to ask you to say a question a second time if it happens to be quite distorted at that time.
Well, that's fair. There's probably some studio or station engineers up there messing around with stuff that he shouldn't be. We apologize for that. But, yeah, we can repeat the question for you.
Absolutely. That's part of our game. We can. And so don't feel shy, Jay, because we're going to start right now. True or false, Jay? You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, question number 1. Secret ballots must be used for elections of directors.
True.
Nice. That is correct. Next question. If one candidate is allowed to use the association newsletter to promote himself, all other candidates have to be allowed the same access.
True.
Excellent. That's correct. Number 3. Once nominated, the association cannot disqualify candidates.
False.
That's correct. Great job.
He got that one right. I thought that one was a little open-ended. I was
arguing we were talking
about
that one. But sure, that's the inspector of elections that would make that determination. They can make it later if they determine, again, that a nominee is not a qualified candidate.
Great job so far, Jay. You've got 100%.
Okay. Next. That's you, Jonathan. You're up.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him. This is nice because you're going to get 22 questions today, Jay. So here you go. Let's see how you do. You ready for these questions for me, Jay? I'll try to speak slowly and
yes,
repeat the
I am.
question. Okay.
Slowly and clearly.
Election rules adopted by an association must include rules about nomination procedures.
True.
Nice.
An operating election rule is valid even if it is in conflict with the governing documents if approved by the owners.
That's a tricky one, huh?
Could you repeat that one?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat that one.
An operating election rule is valid even if it is in conflict with the governing documents if approved by the owners.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, I'm suggesting it could go either way, so I'm going to say false.
Yeah, you're correct.
That's
you're correct.
it.
See, I can see...
You want to elaborate on that one?
Well, if approved by the owners, what does that mean? They're going to have a vote or something? The answer is just false. That's just,
false.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Ready for this one?
Yes, I am.
The Davis-Sterling Act does not require nominations to be in writing.
I'm going to say false.
Correct. Okay, so Jay is 6 for 6. Excellent.
Yeah, he's an all-star.
Round 2, Jay.
Okay.
Number 1. Usually, a candidate running for the board must be a member of the association.
True.
Correct? The inspector of elections is responsible for nominating candidates.
False.
Correct. Board members may not serve as the inspector of elections.
True.
That's correct. You got it.
Are we going to fool this guy today?
That
Make it interesting, Jay.
9 for 9. 9 for 9.
All right, I got some more questions for you, Jay. You ready?
All right.
All right. The inspector of elections may be elected by the members.
I don't.
You want me to repeat that one? Why don't I repeat that one?
He doesn't recall. Yeah.
Okay.
The inspector of elections may be elected by the members.
I could go either way, so I'm going to say true.
Oh, you're correct. Good one.
This guy doesn't screw up on his hunches.
No, that's
all right.
10 for 10.
An association may spend as much association money as it sees fit to support a candidate in a director of election.
False.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
A member in good standing is one who is not delinquent on payment of assessments.
True.
Correct.
Brainiac on the line.
12
Jay.
for 12, everyone. All right. We're going to get lucky. He's lucky.
I think he wants to go outside and get those bushes taken care of.
Yeah. You're fortunate. Okay. Next question. A member may sue the association for violating the election procedures within 1 year of the election.
True.
Correct. Board members may campaign for candidates as long as they do not use association funds.
Again, I could go either way. I'm going to say true.
Oh, you made it.
Keeping me on the edge of my seat.
Edge of our seat. The inspector of elections does not have to be the same for each election.
We're talking of annual elections?
Yes.
And could you repeat the question, please?
The inspector of elections does not have to be the same for each election.
That's true.
That's an easy one.
Jeez.
An election to amend governing documents does not require secret balloting.
Could you repeat it one more time, please?
An election to amend governing documents does not require secret balloting.
That's true.
That is false. Let me say it again. I thought we were going to hit everyone. All right, Jay, so this one says an election to amend governing documents. That must be secret balloting, Jonathan. So.
Of
right,
course.
So,
I was totally, that's why I was up in arms over here.
Next question. Ballots must be mailed to the members at least 30 days before an election.
True.
Exactly.
All right, here we go. I've got some more for you. And these are really good questions, just to let you know.
These are better than the ones we already had?
I don't know if they're better or not.
I thought they were all good.
Thank you, Jay. Such a nice guy.
All right, Jay, ready? Electronic voting is allowed in secret ballot elections if the members approve it.
Well, that's an interesting one.
That's an interesting question. Let's talk about that just real quick because there's like 1,200 bills going through the legislature, and we still have this format of sending these 2 envelopes that have the certain, ramifications to qualify for being correct ballots and all this. And now we have all this electronic technology and apps and all this stuff, and we don't have electronic balloting yet.
Nope, we don't.
Nothing. No bills.
So the answer is?
The answer?
So based on the, if I understand correctly, there's not a law that allows that yet. So I'd have to say at this point in time, it's false.
This guy's a genius.
Excellent.
All right.
Nice job, Jay.
Next question, Jay. The inspector of elections can determine whether or not a ballot is valid.
Yes.
True or false?
True.
All right, there you go. An election may
You're
never.
a stickler.
An election may never be conducted entirely by mail.
I'm going to say false.
Got it. If a quorum is required by the governing documents, each ballot received will be treated as a member present for the purpose of establishing a quorum.
True.
Got it. Election rules adopted by an association must include candidate qualifications.
Could you repeat that, please?
Election rules adopted by an association must include candidate qualifications.
I'll say true.
Oh, man.
Excellent.
What is that, like 21 out of 22?
That's 20, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the tiebreaker question, too. We're going to do that one right now. Right, Jonathan? Go ahead.
How about it? You want me to do the tiebreaker question? All right. The inspector of elections is responsible for hearing and determining all challenges and questions in any way arising out of or in connection with the right to vote.
I'll just guess that true.
Good job, Jay.
22 out of 23, including the tiebreaker.
Yay. Jay, thanks
for playing, Jay.
Jay, you're going to get $200 for playing. I want to thank you so much for dealing with us last week.
Gift cards. $200
in gift cards. And what we'll do is I'll contact you later. I'll get your address. I'll find out where you want your gift card. And $200.
Maybe like to
Jay, how was your experience, Jay?
It was very, very positive.
Life-changing?
Thank you.
And I enjoy your program, and I think it's an outstanding program, and I think it provides an excellent service to all of the communities.
Oh, man. Jay, I'm flattered. I'm blushing in studio.
Oh, thank you so much, Jay. That's what we're trying to do. We want to educate in an entertaining way, and we find that with Battle of the Board members, it is an entertaining way. Jay, you did a really, really good job. You got 22 out of 23 correct.
And I still don't understand the one I missed. I thought that one had to go out for 30 days.
All right, well, we'll duke it out over the phone this week. How about that, Jay?
Yeah, I'll call you back about that. That's
All
a
right,
good
buddy,
deal.
thanks for calling in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, Claudia, thanks for calling.
Thank
from
you,
San
Claudia.
Jose.
Thank you,
next week,
sponsors.
Free prizes.
Thank you, listeners.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank
Jolly.
you, Jay.
He
Richard,
had coffee in the break room
we're
this
going to
morning.
get you
I
on
like
the
when he
show.
does that.
We're going to get you on the show in a couple shows from now.
Yeah, and then we're going to get Wally. Right? That's what you just said?
Oh, Wally's coming back.
Yeah, Wally's going to come back.
Yeah, our Bay Area connection, right?
Well, let's go melt in the heat. This is going to be a crappy Saturday.
Thank you for listening.